Rough Han+Divine Doctor+Space+Sweet Pet+Golden Finger, Bai Zhi opened her eyes and returned to the morning when she was caught in bed in 1975. It's my father, before my rough ex-husband died. Rebirth, holding the space of spiritual medicine, top-notch medical skills. There is revenge and resentment, as for men. Whether or not to love. Braised pork belly sent by men. Chicken legs. Roast fish. Pig trotters. Not rare, 2 bites of food won't kill you. Abdominal muscles, pectoral muscles, mermaid lines. Bai Zhi swallowed her saliva and said, I'll just take a look, not touch. Chapter 1. Dog Man. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Bai Zhi seems to have had a colorful dream. In his dream, He-jun's eyebrows and eyes were filled with resentment as he questioned her, Bai Zhi, what do you think of me? In his dream, He-jun didn't know what he was doing, he wasn't wearing a shirt, only a pair of pants. The upper body is robust, with obvious chest muscles, wide shoulders and narrow waist, and clear lines. He is covered in thick male hormones. Bai Zhi's gaze couldn't help but slide down from his upper body. Looking at his abs, looking at the mermaid line that's not tucked into his pants, Bai Zhi subconsciously suspected that she had been vegetarian for too long. So I had such a vivid dream. I also dreamed of my ex-husband who had been dead for many years. Seeing He-jun like this reminds me of certain scenes. Bai Zhi couldn't help but extend her sinful hands. He-jun had already forcefully restrained that anger, but was attacked by her like this. Directly turned the tables and suppressed her. When Bai Zhi woke up again, she felt as if her whole body had been reassembled. Just as she moved, a pair of obviously male hands wrapped around her waist. Bai Zhi, who had lived alone for many years, instinctively hit her knee and said, Who? He-jun reacted promptly and quickly avoided, but he still took a deep breath of cold air in pain. Bai Zhi. He-jun's voice seemed to squeeze out from between his teeth. He-jun felt that if he hadn't reacted sensitively enough, he might have cut off his children and become extinct. Upon hearing the familiar voice, Bai Zhi looked up in shock and said, How could it be you? Isn't He-jun because he saved her, he died many years ago. Upon hearing these words, He-jun's eyes suddenly sank. The hands clasping Bai Zhi's waist suddenly tightened, almost pinching her waist. Looking at the astonishment in Bai Zhi's eyes, He-jun sneered, It's not me. Who do you think the person from last night was? Is Lin Jianan? It's not right. Bai Zhi pushed away He-jun and sat up for a moment. Observing the surroundings. This is clearly the adobe house where she and He-jun lived after marriage several years ago. But isn't she attending an important medical lecture? After the meeting, it seems like she was hit by a truck. Seeing Bai Zhi push herself away when she heard Lin Jianan's name, He-jun pursed his lips and clenched his fists. I want to ask her if she regrets it. Do you hate him for taking advantage of someone's situation last night? Bai Zhi's gaze was fixed on the calendar hanging painting on the wall. The chairman looks like a row of 12-month calendars below. The number on the calendar, named Bai Zhi, asked He-jun incredulously, What year is it now? 7 or 5 years. He-jun felt that today's Bai Zhi was not quite right, frowning at her. Bai Zhi. Bai Zhi looked at He-jun's youthful and excessive face. She is not dreaming, nor is she dead. She returned to 1975. At this moment, the wooden door outside the door was knocked by someone, and the person deliberately suppressed the sound, Bai Zhi. Are you there? This anxious female voice is also familiar to Bai Zhi. Ji Xiaoxiao. Her stepsister. Ji Xiaoxiao was still knocking on the door, Bai Zhi. Are you inside? The people from the Educated Youth Academy are coming to catch traitors. Bai Zhi murmured, Catch the traitor. Upon hearing this familiar concern, Bai Zhi also knew when she would be reborn. This is the day she was framed and caught in bed with He-jun. 8 years ago, there was an accident in the Bai family. Bai Mu and Bai Zhi remarried their current stepfather, who is also Ji Xiaoxiao's biological father. From that day on, Ji Xiaoxiao's father replaced her father as the director of the pharmaceutical factory. Ji Xiaoxiao became the daughter of the factory director and was highly sought after by the entire factory. Her mother became a highly praised stepmother among the people, giving all the good things to Bai Zhi. Bai Zhi, however, became a drag bottle that no one wanted. What hit her the most was her childhood sweetheart also fell in love with Ji Xiaoxiao. Bai Zhi is unwilling to accept it. Make every effort to get Ji Xiaoxiao on the list of going to the mountains and going to the countryside. But with a twist of her back, Bai Zhi was sent to the countryside by her mother, replacing Ji Xiaoxiao. After going to the countryside, Ji Xiaoxiao didn't know what to do and also followed him. When I found out that Ji Xiaoxiao liked the rough man He-jun from the countryside, Bai Zhi intentionally approached He-jun. I want to snatch what Ji Xiaoxiao cares about the most. Last night, Bai Zhi unexpectedly saw a proposal letter from her childhood sweetheart to Ji Xiaoxiao. In a fit of shock and anger, Bai Zhi left a note and deliberately went to find He-jun to stimulate Ji Xiaoxiao. She wants to force Ji Xiaoxiao to come to find He-jun in the middle of the night. I want to force Ji Xiaoxiao to publicly express her liking for He-jun. I want to force Ji Xiaoxiao to write a letter to Lin Jianan and refuse him. But Ji Xiaoxiao didn't come. Bai Zhi and He-jun were drugged and eventually caught in bed. Starting from this day, I lost my reputation first, then my father, and finally nothing. The door was lightly tapped again, and Ji Xiaoxiao's voice was very anxious. He-jun. Let her out quickly, someone is coming. The tone was urgent and tense, with an indescribable concern. The smile on Bai Zhi's face was even more sarcastic. In her previous life, Ji Xiaoxiao pretended to help spread the news. She hurriedly opened the door and left, blocked by the next wave of rapists. Just because of Ji Xiaoxiao's kindness in reporting in advance. She was still grateful, and after that, she repeatedly believed Ji Xiaoxiao's lies. There was no movement in the room, but Ji Xiaoxiao was really anxious. Bai Zhi. If you don't leave, it's really too late. However, it's too late to leave now. Another wave of people came outside the door, and they ran straight into the doorway. Someone shouted loudly at the door, He-jun, open the door. The person shouting this time is Chao Xiaolan, Ji Xiaoxiao's lackey. She is also an educated youth in the academy. Chao Xiaolan felt proud and spoke loudly, He-jun, Bai Zhi didn't go back to the educated youth courtyard all night. Are you here? He-jun looked at Bai Zhi. He wants to say that he will be responsible and that he will find someone to testify about his marriage today. But Bai Zhi had already hurriedly got up to get dressed. Bai Zhi remembers the fate of being caught and raped behind the bed in her previous life. At that time, she was thinking about returning to the city in her childhood sweetheart, but was instigated by Ji Xiaoxiao. Naturally, he refused to admit that he and He-jun had broken shoes. Finally, He-jun admitted all the crimes. Bai Zhi's reputation was tarnished, and He-jun almost got shot because of this. Next, when his father died, everything in the Bai family was taken over by Ji Xiaoxiao and his family. Since we have returned to this day, we must not be caught in bed again. She said while getting dressed, you're blocking people, I'll flip out of the backyard. Cannot be caught for adultery. The coarse blanket completely slipped off her shoulder, and a great spring light made He-jun almost unable to hear what she was saying. Bai Zhi quickly put on her clothes, but before He-jun could react, she kicked him in. What are you still waiting for? Block the front door. She kicked over and He-jun reflexively grabbed her ankle. Bai Zhi's calves are particularly thin, her Achilles tendon is slender, and her lines are beautiful. Fingertips touched the skin of Bai Zhi, delicate as if it were the finest porcelain. The tactile sensation at hand instantly reminded He-Jun of some scenes from last night, and he instinctively rubbed them slightly. He rubbed his fingertips rough and rough, causing a layer of goosebumps on Bai Zhi's sensitive skin and turning her ears red. Bai Zhi's face was both shy and angry. Let go of me. Normally, let's just forget about it. At this point, the ones who catch the traitors are all at the door. He-Jun, this dog man, is still thinking about this kind of thing. He-Jun was scolded, his eyes slightly darkened. After he woke up yesterday, he was actually thinking about how to handle the aftermath and take responsibility. It's just that Bai Zhi doesn't want to have any involvement with him, and she doesn't mind him being responsible. Looking at Bai Zhi, his voice was cold and he said, "Don't worry, I would say I forced you." He admits to forcing Bai Zhi, but Bai Zhi is just a victim. Bai Zhi was angrily laughed at by him and said, "I wonder if you admit it like this. Turn around and head towards the backyard." He-Jun was shot for playing hooliganism. What should his younger brother do? She was finally reborn just to see He-Jun shot. He-Jun's expression became even colder. Bai Zhi has lived in this small courtyard for over 2 years and is very familiar with it. Sure enough, there are still firewood stacks on the inner side of the wall. Bai Zhi tried to climb up the firewood pile and climb over the wall, taking a step and letting Bai Zhi take a deep breath of air conditioning. The man's beastly behavior last night kept shaking his eyes. If it weren't for knowing that there were still people outside waiting to catch traitors, Bai Zhi would really want to use these sticks to smash that bastard He-Jun to death. He-Jun saw her swaying and ready to fall at any moment, so he lifted her up directly. Before Bai Zhi could react, He-Jun had already carried her over the wall and threw her down again. Bai Zhi was thrown so hard that she fell and squatted down, her face turning green. He-Jun. These 2 words are almost squeezed out from between the teeth. She despises him so much, this dog man. I don't even understand what tenderness is. He-Jun actually wanted to pick her up right away. As a result, when I looked up, I saw her disdainful gaze. Looking down at the rough palm with thick cocoons. He-Jun's outstretched hand curled back. The front door was moving even louder, and people outside seemed to be breaking in at any moment. He-Jun frowned and quickly climbed back over the wall. Bai Zhi watched his movements, gritting her teeth. Dog man. He-Jun, a dog-like man, is not worthy of having a wife. No wonder she kicked me in my previous life. At this moment, the front courtyard door seemed to have finally been knocked open by someone. Someone shouted, "Where's Bai Zhi? What did you do to her, He-Jun?" Bai Zhi's expression tightened as she got up and ran with her feet raised. If they didn't find her in He-Jun's house, these people would soon suspect her in the backyard. Bai Zhi wants to detour back to the Educated Youth Academy before they discover it. But Bai Zhi just lifted her foot and gave a meal. The Educated Youth Academy sleeps in large bunks, and this group of people has come to catch traitors. She went back and said she was at the Youth Academy. Does anyone believe it? Chapter 2. She wants to save him. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. This Chao Xiaolan is like a crazy person. The game of stealing and smashing homes is particularly skillful. In her previous life, there was a girl who jumped into the river to commit suicide due to being stripped off by Chao Xiaolan and unwilling to be humiliated. Bai Zhi dares to go back now. Chao Xiaolan dared to tear off her clothes in public and drag her to the commune. The Educated Youth Academy cannot return. Not only can she not return, but Bai Zhi also needs to find a witness for herself. Find a way to prove that she stayed overnight elsewhere last night. But at this time, she was in Pinyin Commune and seemed to have no friends at all. After some thought, Bai Zhi went straight towards the direction of the commune hospital. After her divorce in her previous life, she devoted all her time and energy to researching medicine. Saying a little achievement is all about humility. She is an expert in treating illnesses. Pretend to be sick, so is she. And reborn, He-Jun is still alive, what about her father? But she wants to go to the commune and make a phone call to confirm. Dad, is he okay now? She walked down the riverbank without looking back, heading towards the commune. The Red Flag production team they are in is backed by both the mountain and the river. When this river reaches them, it is a bend, and the water is deep and fast. The flood season has just passed, and the river is abundant. You also need to pay attention to safety on the riverbank. At that moment, a child suddenly screamed and ran down from upstream, help. Xiaobao fell into the water. Bai Zhi's ears were sensitive, and upon hearing the shouting, she quickly glanced towards the nearby river. At this moment, there seemed to be a small figure in the water constantly rising and falling with the river water. Bai Zhi's expression suddenly changed. She remembered that in her previous life, after she and He-Jun were caught and raped, there was a child who stumbled and fell into the water. Just because the delay was too long, the child was not saved even after being sent to the commune. Bai Zhi almost lost her mind and jumped directly into the river. The members of the team who had just heard the voice of a child running to the river to see them screamed out in fear of Bai Zhi's movements. Bai Zhi. Help someone. Someone fell into the water. He-Jun's entrance is still blocked by educated youth and their people. The leader is the female educated youth named Chao Xiaolan. This will see the early crowd gather together, and Chao Xiaolan becomes even more excited. Chao Xiaolan stared at He-Jun's door, her eyes flashing with malice, wishing she could just bump into it. He-Jun is tall and powerful. She could only question, where is Bai Zhi? He-Jun. After Bai Zhi said she came to see you last night, she didn't go back to the youth academy all night. Not in your room, where is it? The onlookers immediately became boiling. Bai Zhi didn't come out all night, what did she do with He-Jun? Someone next to him immediately smiled vaguely and said, I'm sure they must have broken their shoes. Look at what happened to He-Jun. Some people couldn't help but feel sour. I don't know what these educated youth are really interested in. He-Jun. That Ji Xiao is like this, and so is this Bai Zhi. Are you all blind one by one? Someone muttered along, there is a deaf younger brother under He-Jun who is dragging oil bottles and doesn't have any support from his parents. Poor mice all take a detour. These little girls don't know what they're thinking. At that moment, everyone heard someone scream out. First, he said, Xiao Bao fell into the water. Then someone shouted out in a loud voice, Bai Zhi. Come on, save someone. This startled everyone in front of He-Jun's door. Bai Zhi. Isn't Bai Zhi inside the house? Why did she fall into the water? The person leaning against the river shouted, Cheng Xiaobao fell into the water. Bai Zhi went down to save people. That's it, I'm about to rush down. There is a downhill section from here to the commune where the water flow is particularly fast. He-Jun's pupils suddenly contracted and rushed out directly. Ji Xiaoxiao was also stunned. Bai Zhi was not in the room. A woman in the bustling crowd had not yet regained her senses and said, Little treasure. What's wrong with my little treasure? Mrs. Cheng. Your little treasure has fallen into the water. The woman and the old lady finally reacted, Xiao Bao. That woman went crazy and threw herself directly into the river. The captain of the team who had just arrived next to her grabbed her and said, What's this nonsense? Those who know how to water, hurry down and save people. Run down from the shore. The speed is faster on the shore. Quick, fast, don't let anyone rush to that slope. A group of people followed and ran downstream. Even though they couldn't go into the water to save people, they couldn't help but probe and look. Watching the movements of those people, Chao Xiaolan widened her eyes. How could Bai Zhi be outside? Fake. Tiao Hulishan. After Bai Zhi entered, she didn't come out. How could she go into the water to save people? Without anyone to stop her, she burst open the door of He-Jun's room. But Bai Zhi is really not here. Impossible. She tampered and witnessed Bai Zhi and He Jun rolling together with her own eyes. She turned her head and followed everyone downstream. At this moment, Bai Zhi had no idea about the situation on the bank. She was trying to get close to the child in the turbulent river water. Before meeting He Jun, Bai Zhi was not familiar with water and even had a fear of water because she had fallen into it before. Later it was He Jun who forced her to learn how to swim. Bai Zhi disliked his authoritarianism and never drank again after learning it. However, for some reason, after He Jun's death, Bai Zhi fell in love with swimming. Sometimes, I even enjoy the feeling of suffocation in the water. Perhaps at that time, she still wanted to have those hands to pull her up. Although she disliked some of his actions, she never thought about letting him die. Or died to save her. She swam very fast and quickly caught the child. She tried hard to take people to the shore. Bai Zhi does have good water properties nowadays. However, Bai Zhi overestimated her physical strength after being tormented by He Jun all night. In order to avoid being swept up to the small waterfall downstream, Bai Zhi kept striving upstream with a child. This is really too physically demanding. Arriving at the shore, looking at the high riverbank, Bai Zhi only realized that she couldn't climb up with Qing Xiaobao. Unable to grasp the slippery riverbank, she and Qing Xiaobao were constantly carried down by the water flow. Bai Zhi gradually lost her strength. Bai Zhi thought, it's a pity to start over again, she hasn't had time to see her father again. I didn't even have time to say another word to He Jun. Just as her mind flashed, her arm was grabbed by a big hand. He Jun's voice came, Bai Zhi, grab me. Bai Zhi turned her head and saw He Jun in the morning light, as if carrying light. Bai Zhi suddenly laughed. This time, she waited. He Jun was alive, and at this moment he also grabbed her hand. Bai Zhi's smile was bright and charming, while He Jun felt his heart beating faster. Seize me and lie on my back with Qing Xiaobao. He Jun got his hands and feet stuck in the crevice of the riverbank, looking at her. Bai Zhi shook her head and said, take Qing Xiaobao up. Climbing the riverbank is like climbing a rock. The most important thing is the center of gravity. When climbing vertically, people will fall backwards. No matter how powerful He Jun is, he cannot climb up with two people. He Jun looked at Bai Zhi's soft and fluffy arms and was very clear that if he went up, Bai Zhi would be washed away by the water. Come up. Bai Zhi said, we can't delay, Qing Xiaobao is not breathing anymore. Qing Xiaobao doesn't know how long it has been in the water, and if he doesn't rescue it, there won't be enough time. But He Jun refused. The two suddenly froze. Bai Zhi drank low and said, quickly, send him up. If we don't save him, it won't be too late. He Jun grabbed Bai Zhi's hand and repeatedly exerted force. Never let go. Fortunately, at this moment, the pursuers on the riverbank finally ran up here, and the rope was also thrown down. He Jun carried two people on his back and was pulled up by the crowd. Just as she landed, Bai Zhi put down Qing Xiaobao and wanted to continue rescuing him. An old lady and a woman stumbled forward and ran into Bai Zhi. Bai Zhi lost all her strength and stumbled directly from the impact. The little mother over there seemed to be crazy, shaking Qing Xiaobao vigorously. Xiaobao, wake up, she said, look at mom, look at mom. The child is about 5 or 6 years old, with a pale face and a hint of blue and purple, and no longer has any ups and downs on his chest. Mrs. Qing approached cautiously and reached her hand under the child's nose. After a while, her feet softened and she sat down on the ground. Immediately burst into tears. I'm out of breath, said the crowd around me, my chest hasn't even risen or fallen. So whose family's child is so lacking? Damn it. Qing Xiaobao is only 6 years old. Someone saw Xiaobao's mother still shaking Xiaobao and couldn't help but step forward. Xiaobao has already left, please don't do this. If Xiaobao knew, it would also be uncomfortable. Qing Xiaobao's mother shouted frantically, my son hasn't died. Go to the hospital, the doctor will definitely be able to save him. The sound startled Bai Zhi and she rushed to Xiaobao's mother, bumped into her and snatched Qing Xiaobao away. Qing Xiaobao now has cold limbs, congested eyes, no heartbeat, no breathing. But there is still temperature near the chest, so the drowning time should not be particularly long. There is still hope. Bai Zhi reached out and took out something from the child's mouth. Then bend one leg and lay the drowning child prone on her lap, patting his back in position. Seeing a large amount of water being discharged, Bai Zhi placed the person on the ground and began performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Xiao Baoma's emotions were already on the brink of collapse, and upon seeing this scene, she rushed up and said, "What are you doing?" During the snatch, she caught Bai Zhi's face. Bai Zhi seemed to be completely unable to hear anyone speak or feel any pain, only completely focused in front of her. The golden rescue time after drowning and sudden cardiac arrest is only 3.5 minutes. Without measurement, the hands were already pressed in the most suitable position and began performing chest compressions. The old lady also rushed forward with a sharp voice, "Let go of my grandson. Everyone is dead. Why don't you let him go like this?" He Jun glanced at Bai Zhi, her movements were resolute, and her gaze was firm and powerful, which inexplicably made He Jun believe her. He directly blocked everyone and protected Bai Zhi. Looking at the crowd, his tone was affirmative, Bai Zhi is rescuing him. That woman is still struggling frantically, looking at her child with despair in her eyes, saving someone. How could there be such a rescue? But she watched her child pressing back and forth under Bai Zhi's command, but she never showed any reaction. The woman suddenly couldn't say anything. Suddenly, he collapsed on the ground and said, "Little treasure, my little treasure." Chapter 3 is too late. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He Jun stopped all those who were trying to stop him. I lowered my eyes and focused on watching Bai Zhi's movements. Ji Xiaoxiao hurriedly arrived and saw this scene. Watching Bai Zhi skillfully perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation on the child of the Qing family. Seeing He Jun's gaze focused on Bai Zhi, his gaze was gentle. Ji Xiaoxiao's eyes were shrouded in darkness. Why, no matter how much she does, He Jun wouldn't even give her a second glance. Why is Bai Zhi so virtuous now that He Jun only sees her? Ji Xiaoxiao longed for Bai Zhi to be caught and raped. I wish Bai Zhi's reputation could be ruined. I wish Bai Zhi could take root in this rural area and be trained by rural men for a lifetime. But that man can never be He Jun. Chao Xiaolan finally arrived and stared at Bai Zhi with wide eyes. Bai Zhi is really not inside the room, how could it be? The sound startled Ji Xiaoxiao. Looking at Chao Xiaolan, Ji Xiaoxiao's eyes flickered. Bai Zhi learned a lot of medical skills from her father when she was young. She didn't know if it was possible for Bai Zhi to save Qing Xiaobao, but she couldn't take the risk. She put in a lot of effort to make everyone in the Red Flag production team dislike Bai Zhi, who is lazy to eat and sharp and strong. We must not let Bai Zhi gain a good reputation for sacrificing herself to save others. She knew that Chao Xiaolan hated Bai Zhi, so she deliberately lowered her voice and said, Bai Zhi doesn't know any medical skills at all. Isn't this delaying people? Her voice was very low, only Chao Xiaolan beside her heard it. Sure enough, Chao Xiaolan's eyes lit up and she raised her voice, saying, Bai Zhi doesn't know any medical skills. She's killing someone. Hurry up and take the person to the hospital. Qing Xiaobao is going to be killed by her. The Qing family, who had just calmed down, became excited again. Bai Zhi doesn't know any medical skills at all. Why torture their children? Cheng's father also heard the news and rushed over. He saw Bai Zhi abusing his son with strange movements from ancient times, his eyes splitting, and he rushed forward, Xiao Bao. He Jun slammed his shoulder and stopped the person. Do you want to kill your son? Bai Zhi is saving someone. Chao Xiaolan exclaimed loudly, what can save people? Can Bai Zhi save people? Some people are still discerning. If Bai Zhi really wants to harm someone, just don't go into the water to catch them. If it weren't for Bai Zhi, Chen Xiaobao would have been washed away long ago. Upon hearing these words, Chao Xiaolan immediately said, there are so many people who can save lives in the water. I think if it weren't for Bai Zhi, He Jun would have sent the baby up long ago. The people next to them also hesitated. Just now, He Jun refused to bring Chen Xiaobao up first and insisted on waiting for Bai Zhi. Maybe at that time, Chen Xiaobao will still be angry. I never thought about how long Bai Zhi and Chen Xiaobao swam against the current. I just thought that even He Jun could catch up with Bai Zhi, maybe I could also catch up with Chen Xiaobao before he was washed away. A few more men said, what kind of medical skills does a young and beautiful girl like Bai Zhi have? People are all dead, why bother with their children? Chao Xiaolan sneered, that's right, if there is no reaction after falling into the water, it may be choking on the lung tube. If you take it to the hospital, you can be saved. Now, it's too late to delay sending Bai Zhi to the hospital. Captain Wu next to him had a dark face and said, shut up. What's all this nonsense? Chao Xiaolan shouted, Captain Wu, I'm not talking nonsense. I don't believe you, asked Ji Xiaoxiao. Bai Zhi is her sister. Bai Zhi doesn't have any medical skills at all. Who can she save? I think she's just. At that moment, someone shouted, shut up. The people around gave way and Su Hongbin, the secretary of the production brigade, walked in. Everyone shouted, Secretary Su. Su Hongbin was a little old man with a cigarette gun in his hand. He stared at Chao Xiaolan and said, what are you all shouting about? Seeing Secretary Su squeeze in, Chao Xiaolan's neck shrank, her eyes flickered, and she dared not continue shouting. What do you mean by that? Let the captain do the heavy work and the accountant settle the matter. Indulge the custodian scale to check and the cashier to redeem. Offend the little scorer and earn no visible work points. Moreover, this is still the leader above the captain. In the countryside, educated youth have no relatives or connections in this place. Who dares to provoke the brigade secretary? Su Hongbin quickly called out to He Jun, take the child to the hospital. Bai Zhi is still undergoing cardiopulmonary resuscitation. He Jun paused for a moment before finally speaking up, it's too late. I'm not breathing anymore. The level of commune hospitals is very poor. The county hospital is relatively far away, even if driving a tractor, it takes at least half an hour. This child clearly has lost his breath and heartbeat. It's too late to deliver anywhere. Su Hongbin also looked over, and Chen Xiaobao on the ground was pressed back and forth by Bai Zhi, but still had no reaction. His breathing is also stagnant. At this moment, Mrs. Cheng, who had been making a lot of noise, finally stopped making a fuss and cried out, Xiaobao. Xiaobao's mother's eyes were numb, just staring blankly at her own child. Bai Zhi is still continuously performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation on Chen Xiaobao. He Jun saw that the Cheng family was no longer causing trouble and looked at Bai Zhi, remembering her every move and frequency. I can help you. Bai Zhi glanced over and extended her hand to the child's chest, broad and heavy, with firm and powerful arms. It is indeed a good hand for double chest compressions. Bai Zhi is really weak. Seeing these hands, quickly let go of the distance and said, 15.2, maintain the frequency, position, and force I just did. You do CPR, I'll do artificial respiration. The two cooperated for the first time, but they were very tacit. The noisy people next to them watched as they gradually quieted down for some reason. The man and the old lady had a last bit of hope in their eyes. Perhaps there is still some hope. Ji Xiaoxiao's eyes flickered outside the crowd. Bai Zhi and He Jun are too skilled in their movements. That child was just caught, in case they really save someone. She turned her head to look at Chao Xiaolan, but Chao Xiaolan, a foolish fool in her den, dared not make a scene when she saw Secretary Su. She quickly stepped forward and said, "Secretary Su, Bai Zhi is my sister, she doesn't even know medical skills. If the tractor driver is not around, I can still drive the tractor and take people to the hospital." She was about to pull Bai Zhi away when she went up. "Bai Zhi, you can't joke about people's lives just for the sake of sensationalism. Take Xiao Bao to the hospital now, maybe there's still some way to save him." Bai Zhi was also annoyed when someone reached out and pulled her away. Subconsciously grabbing the wrist acupoint of the person who was attacking her, he directly threw the person down and said, "Get lost." She didn't even go to see who the person behind her was. She just quickly squatted down again. With a focused expression, he continued to follow He Jun's movements and perform artificial respiration. Ji Xiaoxiao was thrown to the ground by Bai Zhi, feeling a bit uneasy in her heart. If Bai Zhi really saves this child, only she knows what kind of talent Bai Zhi has. Can't let Bai Zhi continue. Ji Xiaoxiao quickly got up and still had to speak, and she had to go and pull Bai Zhi away. But Secretary Su's face darkened over there. "Ji Jiqing. They're saving people. What are you doing?" Ji Xiaoxiao's expression changed. Immediately, her tone softened and she said, "Secretary Su, my sister doesn't know medical skills." Bai Zhi doesn't know medical skills. Su Hongbin's face also changed slightly. Ji Xiaoxiao saw Secretary Su hesitating and quickly said, "She's just used to acting around. You see, she's been tinkering for a long time, and Xiao Bao hasn't even reacted. What if Qing Xiao Bao is still saved? Isn't this a delay?" Many people around looked at Bai Zhi and He Jun. Secretary Su also looked over. He felt that these two people were not joking. He has a lot of knowledge and knows that people who fall into the water and have no breath cannot be taken to the hospital in time. Since Bai Zhi can take the initiative to stand up, he thinks she should give it a try. Let Bai Zhi give it a try. Su Hongbin struck a firm note. Even with a hint of favoritism towards Bai Zhi, people who choke on water and have no breath have no time to be taken to the hospital. This made Ji Xiaoxiao clench her hand tightly. She didn't understand why such a mistake happened yesterday. How come things keep getting out of control over and over again? She stared intently at Bai Zhi, but Qing Xiao Bao still didn't react. A hint of resentment flashed in Ji Xiaoxiao's eyes, and Bai Zhi was sure to fall this time. "I never caught any traitors in my previous life." Qing Xiaobao's incident was discovered a bit late. Finally, it was He Jun who brought it up from the downstream section. After being rescued, He Jun risked his life driving the tractor, and in less than 10 minutes, he took Qing Xiaobao to the county hospital for rescue. But the child still died. Yes. Ji Xiaoxiao has been reborn. In her previous life, in order to accumulate enough qualifications and suppress Bai Zhi, after Bai Zhi went to the countryside, Ji Xiaoxiao still went there. I came to the place where Bai Zhi went to the countryside. After arriving in the countryside, she found out that Bai Zhi had married He Jun, and she felt that Bai Zhi had gone crazy. Surprisingly, I have to stay in the countryside for a lifetime for such a rough man from the countryside. But in the next decade or so, she watched as He Jun found his long-lost loved ones. Seeing He Jun rise up in the face of changing times, becoming wealthy, powerful, and influential. Seeing Bai Zhi supported by He Jun, she became a top-renowned doctor and was highly sought after by audiences, and her father was sent to prison by He Jun. She herself has been mediocre for many years. In the end, Bai Zhi deliberately bought the pharmaceutical factory back, forcing her to be laid off and living in poverty for a lifetime. Perhaps even the heavens couldn't bear to see her being oppressed by Bai Zhi, and they actually called her a chance to be reborn. Coming back this time, she must not let Bai Zhi turn over. Ji Xiaoxiao stared fixedly at Bai Zhi, constantly telling herself in her heart that she couldn't be saved. Didn't Qing Xiaobao also die in his previous life? How can Bai Zhi save people? Although it came a bit early this time. But it has already been submerged for 5 or 6 minutes. Qing Xiaobao is sure to die. She has to wait and see. How can Bai Zhi carry the pot she picked up herself? Chapter 4. Is really alive. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. As time passed, the child still had no reaction. Bai Zhi's heart gradually sank. I'll do cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Because the heart is protected under the sternum and pectoral muscles, it requires skill to apply the force of chest compressions to the heart. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation for children and the elderly is a more challenging technique. 1, 1, 1, 1. Bai Zhi's hands and arms were almost completely stiff and numb. He-Jun noticed that Bai Zhi's arms were stiff, but her movements did not deviate at all. A pale face turned red, but gasped for breath. Let's switch to me. He-Jun said chest compression is a very strong force job. When rescuing with 2 or more people, the depressor should be replaced every 2 minutes or so. But Bai Zhi dare not change. At such times, she only trusts herself. Their conversation completely broke the silence of the scene. Everyone started whispering. Qing Xiaobao, when he got out of the water, he was already out of breath. What a sin. Cheng's daughter-in-law was pregnant with 3 children in front of her, but she didn't keep them. It was not easy for her to have such a child. Chao Xiaolan couldn't help but sneer when she saw that Bai Zhi couldn't save the person. What are you pretending to be? I thought I could resurrect myself. Bai Zhi continued to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation, one after another. He-Jun looked at Bai Zhi. At this moment, Bai Zhi's braids were wet, but her forehead was covered in sweat, and her eyes were full of seriousness and stubbornness. There is a hint of fragility on the pale face. A small cut was made at the corner of her eye, and a hint of crimson blush added a touch of charm to Bai Zhi. Just looking at the injury, He-Jun frowned and his fingertips moved slightly. Bai Zhi is very delicate. I don't even want to bask in the sun on weekdays, so I'm afraid I'll tan my skin. She didn't know how to feel sad about this kind of injury on her face. Ji Xiaoxiao saw the look in He-Jun's eyes as he looked at Bai Zhi. That kind of gaze sounded an alarm in her heart. Bai Zhi, if Xiaobao gets into trouble due to your delay, you are a sinner, he interrupted. Stop messing around and let me take them to the hospital. Maybe Xiaobao can still be saved. Bai Zhi ignored. Chao Xiaolan continued to sneer and answer, as a person, I thought I could be a doctor and save people. The others couldn't help but mutter softly, what strange action were they doing? Can they really save lives? Who's not an old doctor of that family? How old is Bai Zhi? Can she still revive from death? Qing Xiaobao is probably really dead. He didn't react even when he was pressed so hard. Angelica de Hurica doesn't know what people around her think. At this time, she just regrets that there is no acupuncture and moxibustion bag in her heart. Otherwise, she can do more. Qing Xiaobao is only 5 or 6 years old, and his life has just begun. She must save her. With determination and stubbornness in his eyes, his gaze suddenly blurred, and a touch of green appeared in front of him. She was taken aback for a moment, her eyes were so familiar here. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a familiar expanse of medicinal fields and various rare medicinal herbs. Looking up again, not far away were 2 more familiar grass houses. Here, this is actually the golden finger she got after divorcing He-Jun. The space for spiritual medicine. She accidentally discovered it from a pendant left by her father. A glimmer of joy flashed in her eyes, not because she had obtained this space in advance, but because there was a golden needle in this space. Find the golden needle and Bai Zhi quickly exits the space. In full view of the public, Angelica de Hurica made a feint and took out a small acupuncture and moxibustion bag from her clothes pocket. She tore open the top on the child's body and directly injected the needle. Seeing this scene, people around exclaimed in surprise. Ji Xiaoxiao was even more stunned. Angelica de Hurica acupuncture and moxibustion. He Jun was even more stunned. Yesterday was all over, and even the scrubbing on Bai Zhi's body was done by him. He knew exactly what was on Bai Zhi's body and in her pockets. But he didn't say anything, just stared at Bai Zhi and her children. Just 3 shots down. Bai Zhi felt the child under her command suddenly cough and then burst into tears. The sound made the people around boil instantly. I'm alive. I'm really alive. In the midst of crying, the Qing family finally regained their senses and pounced on them. Xiao Bao. Bai Zhi pulled out the golden needle and retreated, rubbing her slightly trembling wrist. Look at them. Continuous minutes of cardiopulmonary resuscitation caused her hand muscles to strain. Just looking at the Qing family, she couldn't help but curl her lips. When she returns to this point, there are still many things that can be changed. Dad is still here, and he Jun is still, and now, she has saved another person. She said, after drowning, it is easy to cause pulmonary edema, which can then lead to problems such as pneumonia and myocarditis. Take it to the hospital, pay attention to keeping warm. Bai Zhi's voice was very steady, and instinctively, the Qing family responded, okay, okay. Secretary Su also showed some joy and quickly shouted, who can help drive the tractor? He Jun was about to agree, but his gaze swept over Bai Zhi. As his gaze swept over her delicate and fair neck, he saw the little red plums on her collarbone at a glance, and his gaze froze. He strode forward, blocking in front of Bai Zhi and also blocking the view of others. After a pause, he looked at Aunt Lu, who was familiar with him in the crowd, and said, Aunt Lu. Can you ask Bai Zhi to change clothes at your house? Aunt Lu followed He Jun's gaze and saw Bai Zhi on her body. What else does a woman of her age not understand when she sees certain traces? Without much time to think, he quickly took off his floral shirt and draped it over Bai Zhi, holding her in his arms. Bai Zhi, you just went into the water to save someone, don't catch a cold. Let's go, hurry up and come back with me to take a hot shower and change clothes. Upon hearing this, Ji Xiaoxiao and the others finally regained their senses. Ji Xiaoxiao looked at Bai Zhi incredulously, as Bai Zhi had truly saved Qing Xiaobao. How could it be? Chao Xiaolan also reacted and saw that Aunt Lu was about to take Bai Zhi away. Her face changed. She calculated so much and waited outside all night, just waiting to catch the traitor. Before Bai Zhi came to the Red Flag Brigade, Chao Xiaolan had a target of a small leader in the commune. When her partner liked her, she kept talking sweet words. Even promised to give her a spot to operate a cultural troupe. This kind of words, the man doesn't know how many women he has given. Unfortunately, Chao Xiaolan firmly believed in this man's words. Coincidentally, after getting tired of Chao Xiaolan, the man ran into Bai Zhi. I fell in love with Bai Zhi at first glance. Bai Zhi annoyed the man to death. But Chao Xiaolan believed that it was Bai Zhi who stole her man, and hated Bai Zhi to the bone. She wished Bai Zhi had been ruined. How can we just forget about it? She is not an indifferent girl either. She barged into He Jun's house to see, and it was obvious that she had rolled over with a woman. At this moment, her eyes were scanning around Bai Zhi like searchlights. Then my eyes suddenly lit up. She saw it. There are traces of a man sleeping on Bai Zhi's neck. She grabbed Bai Zhi and said, Bai Zhi. Where did you go last night? If Aunt Lu hadn't stopped in front of her immediately, she would have rushed up and stripped off Bai Zhi's clothes. She questioned loudly, you said you went to see He Jun last night, why didn't you come back all night? Someone in the crowd couldn't help but whisper again, Bai Zhi really talked to He Jun about that. Immediately, there was a humanitarian response, you can shut up. They just saved someone, so stop talking nonsense. What nonsense? Look at Bai Zhi, she must be with that bastard He-jun. Listening to the discussions of these people, He-jun looked at Bai Zhi, who had been criticized, and clenched his fists little by little. He is a man. I also want to stand in front of Bai Zhi, block those unpleasant words, and take on my responsibilities. But he knew that Bai Zhi was not rare. Bai Zhi's current longing is still to return to the city. It's her childhood sweetheart. I wish I could distance myself from all their relationships. Chao Xiaolan shouted, Bai Zhi, have you been bullied by He-jun? Ji Xiaoxiao's face changed. With He-jun's personality, if Bai Zhi's innocence was ruined, he would definitely take responsibility to the end. Chao Xiaolan, don't talk nonsense. Chao Xiaolan's voice grew louder, who's talking nonsense? If it weren't for playing with He-jun's broken shoes, where did she go last night? He-jun clenched his hand and was about to step forward. Aunt Lu, who was holding on to Bai Zhi, suddenly exclaimed, fart. Bai Zhi went to my house last night. Chapter 5. Are you still a man? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Aunt Lu's man is the captain of their Red Flag production team's third squad. Aunt Lu herself is also very spicy. At this moment, hold on to Bai Zhi and leave. Chao Xiaolan rushed forward and grabbed Bai Zhi, refusing to let anyone leave. I watched Bai Zhi enter He-jun's house with my own eyes last night. I didn't come out in the middle of the night. How could I possibly go to your house? Aunt Lu pushed Bai Zhi into Wu Aihua's arms, her eyes wide-eyed. Bai Zhi has a good relationship with my daughter and stayed at my house last night, she said. What's wrong? It's none of your business. Chao Xiaolan pointed at He-jun and questioned, He-jun. Do you dare to swear? How dare you swear that you didn't do anything to Bai Zhi and didn't break shoes with her? Bai Zhi instinctively looked at He-jun. He-jun didn't know when he had already put on a slightly deformed washed vest. Standing there at this moment, those clearly defined fingers clenched tightly. Staring at Chao Xiaolan, her eyes were cold and sharp, and her forehead was bulging with veins. With a fierce determination to kill Chao Xiaolan. Can be questioned like this, but remain silent. Aunt Lu's face changed and she said, everyone said Bai Zhi was at my house last night. You educated youth, why don't you want something good? Chao Xiaolan is so angry that Bai Zhi and He-jun definitely have an affair. She looked fiercely at He-jun and said, He-jun, you dare not take it seriously. You know how to hide behind women. Are you still a man? I saw Bai Zhi go to your house with my own eyes. You took advantage of Bai Zhi and now you dare not admit it. He-jun's eyes sank, and Bai Zhi saw that He-jun was about to speak, quickly taking half a step forward. Looking at Chao Xiaolan with a smile on her face, she said, I didn't see you come out in the middle of the night. If you don't go find me, why do you insist on taking so many people to block me in the morning? I thought you were concerned about me, so you're here to catch traitors, right? What are Chao Xiaolan still afraid of now that she has already torn her face apart? At this moment, he sneered, you and He-jun have done shameless things. We can't catch the traitor yet. Many people couldn't bear to watch it, especially those familiar with the Qing family. They just saved someone, Bai Zhi. What are you doing? One by one, they all stopped between Bai Zhi and Chao Xiaolan. The good reputation of the little girl is ruined by you. Why are you so immoral? Someone also took off their dry clothes and put them on Bai Zhi's body. Bai Zhi, hurry up and go to your Aunt Lu's house to change clothes. Bai Zhi was slightly stunned. In her previous life, she lived in this production team for 2 to 3 years. In my impression, everyone in this production team seems to dislike her, especially those women who like to whisper about her behind her back. She is spoiled, lazy, and arrogant. She doesn't have the life of a princess, but she has a princess-like temper. Saying she is fickle and restless. She said she refused to live a good life with her man and only cared about returning to the city and the men in the city every day. She also dislikes every broken-mouthed rural woman in this place. 3 years later, during the national reform, Hee Junfei was about to take the lead. She also eagerly asked Hee Jun to move and leave the Red Flag production team. I never came back again. But now she realized that this production team actually has a different temperature. Seeing Bai Zhi being picked up and left, Chao Xiaolan became anxious. The man she likes abandoned her because of Bai Zhi, a fox spirit. She hates Bai Zhi to the bone. Holding on to Bai Zhi, he didn't let go and said, "You can't leave." The other women in the team also scrambled up and broke her hands. "What are you doing?" Secretary Su and the Qing family went up to help with the tractor, only to find that the tractor driver was not there. Secretary Su turned around and asked Hee Jun for help, only to see this scene. These old ladies. His face darkened as he rebuked, "What's going on?" After roughly understanding what was going on, Secretary Su's face became even worse. His gaze swept over Bai Zhi and Hee Jun, frowning. I don't know if this is true or false. But if a girl has a prestigious reputation, she must be vague about it. Besides, Bai Zhi just saved a child. So, he glared at Chao Xiaolan and said, "Chao Jiqing. You're a girl from every family, what do you say?" Then he glanced at Bai Zhi and said, "Bai Zhi, you just saved someone. You've been soaking in cold water for so long. Why don't you go to the Wu family to tidy up and stop catching a cold? Hee Jun, Lu Xuan is not here. Go help drive the tractor." Aunt Lu immediately pulled Bai Zhi and was about to leave. Chao Xiaolan refused, "I'm not talking nonsense." Secretary Su's face darkened as he said, "Catch the thief and take the stolen goods, catch the traitor and take the double." The Wu family said that Bai Zhi was at their house last night. What are you talking nonsense about here? I see that your ideological education is still inadequate. Chao Xiaolan's face turned red from being suppressed. Ji Xiaoxiao grabbed Chao Xiaolan and lowered her voice, "If you haven't caught the traitor on the bed, Bai Zhi won't admit it. If you can lead the police today, you can also charge Bai Zhi with breaking shoes. But now with the help of Secretary Su. If you continue to make trouble, what will happen if you are put on small shoes by the production team in the future?" Chao Xiaolan is unwilling to accept it. But with such an interruption, the impulse was gone and the momentum could no longer be lifted. Especially when it comes to thinking about it, if one is punished for labor reform or picking feces. Chao Xiaolan looked at Bai Zhi and Secretary Su with hatred in their eyes, but dared not speak up. Secretary Su saw that they had calmed down and snorted, "Hee Jun, let's go." Looking at the rest of the onlookers, I couldn't help but say, "I've dispersed." "What time is it? You don't even need to work." Everyone burst into laughter and dispersed. Don't worry about whether Bai Zhi and Hee Jun are like that. But if you don't catch a traitor in bed, it won't count. Besides, if the villagers really beat Hee Jun and Bai Zhi into tattered shoes, wouldn't that be to kill these two young people? Of course, there will definitely be a lot of discussion on everyone's lips. Upon hearing the discussions in those people's mouths, Secretary Su turned black and glared at Hee Jun. In his opinion, such things must be the fault of men. Can a woman still suppress a man if he doesn't want to? He tugged at Hee Jun and lowered his voice, "Hee Jun. You're also an adult now. Take responsibility for your actions. Whatever you do, you must consider the consequences. Look, what are you doing here?" Bai Zhi was slightly taken aback. Hee Jun looked up at Bai Zhi's stunned expression and only responded with a single word, without saying anything. Secretary Su glanced at Bai Zhi again and couldn't help but sigh, "You young people." Secretary Su doesn't understand what is trendy or not, whether he loves it or not. He knew that this kind of thing must be a disadvantage for girls, as men have to take responsibility. But Bai Zhi didn't speak, so he couldn't say anything more. Bai Zhi paused slightly and said, "Thank you, Secretary Su." Secretary Su couldn't help but take a second glance at Bai Zhi. Bai Zhi's performance today is different from before. Alright, Bai Zhi, hurry up and go back with your Aunt Lu, he said in a softer tone. He Jun helped me drive the tractor. Aunt Lu took Bai Zhi and left. He Jun turned around and left without any hesitation when he saw Bai Zhi, tugging at the corner of his mouth. Doesn't he want to take responsibility? He is a man, and he still has a sense of responsibility. He is very clear that Bai Zhi has never looked up to him. Bai Zhi has always been giving him some kindness, but it was just to anger her stepsister. Seeing He Jun's gaze always following Bai Zhi's back, Ji Xiaoxiao clenched her hands. After discovering her rebirth, her first reaction was naturally to seize the beautiful future that Bai Zhi had in her previous life. In her opinion, Bai Zhi's great future in her previous life was all due to He Jun, wasn't it? As long as you grab the position of Bai Zhi's Lady He, she will have everything. You should know that there are problems with the ingredients of Hejuan nowadays, and there is also a particularly heavy burden. Can be considered a standard marriage difficult household in Pinyin commune. At such times, whenever she gives a little kindness to He Jun will also be grateful. But she was still too late to be reborn. At that time, Bai Zhi had already gone to the countryside to become an educated youth. When she hurriedly chased down to the countryside, Bai Zhi had already saved He Jun's brother and had already been implicated in him. Chao Xiaolan beside her also said with hatred, shameless scoundrel. Sooner or later, I'll grab her handle, and then I'll clean her up and show everyone what kind of person she is. Upon hearing Chao Xiaolan's words, Ji Xiaoxiao breathed a slight sigh of relief and then became tense all over. The arrest of the traitor this time has come to an end, and the two will not get married for the time being. But what about the future? After being reborn, she secretly pursued He Jun. I don't know how, but it was discovered by Bai Zhi. Bai Zhi deliberately competed with her. She was afraid of accidents and deliberately approached Lin Jianan, guiding him to write a letter and propose to her. She knows that Bai Zhi still likes Lin Jianan to this day. So, she deliberately showed the letter to Bai Zhi, waiting for her furious Bai Zhi to return to the city to find Lin Jianan. But Bai Zhi actually turned around and seduced He Jun, drugged him, and retaliated against him by occupying him. She gritted her teeth and cursed in her heart, "You're crazy." Chao Xiaolan looked at Ji Xiaoxiao looking at Bai Zhi and thought of something. She snorted, "Ji Xiaoxiao, you have to thank me well. If it weren't for me, it would have been you who was caught and raped today. By then, if your reputation is ruined, you will have to spend your entire life in this dilapidated countryside." Ji Xiaoxiao was taken aback and looked at Chao Xiaolan. Chao Xiaolan invited for credit and said, "I think Bai Zhi might have been trying to trick you and He Jun yesterday. Before she left, she deliberately left you a note inviting you to go to He Jun's place." Ji Xiaoxiao's mind is buzzing. Chao Xiaolan was proud and only spoke vaguely about the key points. "It's all my credit that we caught the traitor today." Ji Xiaoxiao looked at the proud Chao Xiaolan, and at that moment, she felt the urge to strangle her. She knows now. At this moment, Ji Xiaoxiao finally knew. Yesterday was a coincidence. What happened? Bai Zhi asked her to go to He Jun's place yesterday, probably to plot against her and He Jun, and to ruin her reputation. As long as she is forced to stay here, Lin Jianan will naturally be Bai Zhi's, who knew that Chao Xiaolan had seen it. Perhaps it was Chao Xiaolan who tampered and drugged Bai Zhi, ultimately causing He Jun and Bai Zhi to be together. Ji Xiaoxiao's eyes turned red. She said that Bai Zhi still likes Lin Jianan today. How could she retaliate against her in this self-destructive way after being stimulated? It turns out it's all because of Chao Xiaolan, this stupid woman. Chapter 6. I regret it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chao Xiaolan glanced at her and said, "What kind of gaze are you giving? It's not me, your reputation will be ruined. Is it difficult? Do you still want to stay in the countryside for the rest of your life? That's really thanks to you." Ji Xiaoxiao almost squeezed out from between her teeth. Chao Xiaolan snorted, I just want Kang-Dahai to know that he's after some shameless slut. Ji Xiaoxiao's breathing is not smooth, Kang-Dahai. Kang-Dahai. Kang-Dahai of the commune relied on the father of a young leader to seduce the slightly beautiful young girls in the entire commune. Only Chao Xiaolan, a fool, treats him like a treasure. At this moment, Ji Xiaoxiao was so regretful that her intestines turned blue. If she had known this, she shouldn't have instigated Chao Xiaolan to hate Bai Zhi. He Jun is definitely responsible. As long as Bai Zhi doesn't leave, He Jun will definitely take responsibility. No way. She must let Bai Zhi return to the city. Make Bai Zhi unable to survive in this place. Ji Xiaoxiao glanced at the people in the crowd staring at Bai Zhi's back, her eyes flickering. Actually, Bai Zhi is also quite miserable. After this, I'm afraid everyone will know that Bai Zhi is not innocent. Especially those little hooligans. If I had known that Bai Zhi had gone to find He Jun on her own and voluntarily dropped her off, I wouldn't have known how to harass Bai Zhi. Chao Xiaolan's heart moved and she said, you go back by yourself. I have something else to do. Ji Xiaoxiao watched as she ran to the group of people and smiled. Immediately, he hurriedly headed towards the commune. She needs to find a way to contact Bai Zhi's biological mother Han Chuanxia, or collaborate with Lin Jianan. Bai Zhi didn't know about their plan, she was directly taken back by Aunt Lu. Their family is also considered to have the best production team conditions. When my eldest son got married, he also bought a pair of hot water kettles. I quickly prepared hot water to wash Bai Zhi. Later, Aunt Lu called her daughter over and said, you can give Bai Jiqing some clothes. Wu Aihua snorted coldly and refused to move. She doesn't like these educated youth at all. Aunt Lu stared and said, what attitude are you having? Wu Aihua has certainly heard about today's events. She knows best whether Bai Zhi came to her house last night. Her face didn't look good. What attitude? She almost killed brother He Jun today. Playing hooliganism is something that Bai Zhi can easily get scolded and beaten. However, He Jun may have been shot. Aunt Lu glared at her and said, Bai Zhi just saved your Uncle Cheng's little treasure. Besides, outsiders should not get involved in such young people's affairs. Wu Aihua finally got up. Aunt Lu thought of the marks on Bai Zhi's neck and said, wait a moment. She lowered her voice and said, didn't your sister.in.law give you a scarf when she got married? You go give it to Bai Zhi. Wu Aihua suddenly widened her eyes and said, why? That red scarf, but my sister.in.law had someone bring it back from the provincial capital. She likes something the same. I usually don't want to take it with me, how could I be willing to let Bai Zhi trample on me? Aunt Lu gave her a fierce glare and said, go find it. Wu Aihua held her breath and fell and hit her hard. She hates all the educated youth from the city. The ones I hate the most are Bai Zhi and Ji Xiaoxiao. Ji Xiaoxiao is very hypocritical. As for Bai Zhi clearly doesn't like He Jun and still wants to pick him up. I almost killed He Jun this time. Bai Zhi has already tidied up quite well and is rubbing her hair with a towel. When I heard Wu Aihua come in, I lifted my eyes and looked over. Seeing that her eyes were not kind, Bai Zhi was not surprised at all. The Wu family has a good relationship with He Jun. In his previous life, after He Jun was arrested, Wu Aihua made a big fuss at the Educated Youth Academy. I insist that Bai Zhi admit that she and He Jun are willing to be together. Captain Wu and his wife have also approached Bai Zhi multiple times, hoping that Bai Zhi would change her mind. After all, their whole family is all for the sake of He Juanhao. She was someone who almost turned He Jun into a stinky thug. Wu Aihua is also looking at Bai Zhi. Bai Zhi is currently wearing her old clothes. A white blue floral shirt, a pair of blue cloth pants washed white. The old clothes, which were clearly rustic, gave her a different, clean and beautiful, feeling. Bai Zhi's hair is still damp. After her hair fell off, it made her small face even bigger than a palm. Bai Zhi's face was pure and delicate, with delicate features and picturesque features. I don't know what's going on. It reminded Wu Aihua of a sentence from a Chinese textbook. Clear water produces hibiscus. But when she thought about who the woman in front of her was, Wu Aihua's face turned black again. Throwing the scarf to Bai Zhi, my mom asked me to give it to you. Bai Zhi was stunned for a moment, then thought of something and went to touch her neck. Do you have a mirror? Wu Aihua snorted and took a photo of the newly purchased plastic-framed mirror in front of Bai Zhi. Hearing a clang, she couldn't help but feel heartbroken. Why throw your own mirror when you're angry with Bai Zhi? Bai Zhi looked diagonally at the mirror. She is much younger in the mirror. Because I just took a hot shower, my cheeks turned red. A scratch on the corner of the eye, very shallow, but slightly red and swollen due to contact with water. Lips are red and swollen, appearing particularly plump and sexy. There are still some marks left by Hee-jun on the neck. Bai Zhi flicked her hair, probably braiding it last night. My long wet hair today has some big wavy curls. With such a flick, the snow-white skin on her neck and cheeks faintly appeared under her damp hair. Wu Aihua didn't know why, but suddenly her face and ears turned red. I couldn't help but mutter, no wonder some people in the village called her fox spirit. Bai Zhi looked in the mirror, and after all, she picked up the scarf given by Wu Aihua and wrapped it around her neck. Wu Aihua was confused and vaguely guessed something. My face turned red and I said, I don't want my face. I don't have this ability alone, Bai Zhi said. Wu Aihua has a good heart, but her mouth is not pleasing to the ear. Bai Zhi doesn't know if she's reincarnated. I also saw the living Hee-jun. I also guessed that Dad and they are all alive. Bai Zhi felt relaxed and retorted. Wu Aihua's face turned even redder, angry and anxious. Hee-jun is not that kind of person. You don't like brother Hee-jun. Why do we have to rely on him? Brother Hee-jun has been unlucky for 8 lifetimes and has run into you. Didn't you just help Xiaoqiu? Is it enough to ask brother Hee-jun to pay for your life? If someone really catches Bai Zhi and the two of them play hooligans, she won't be beaten or scolded. Hee-jun could have been shot. Upon hearing her last sentence, Bai Zhi paused slightly. After speaking, she didn't react. Wu Aihua became more and more angry as she thought about it, so she turned her head and left. But Bai Zhi fell into memories. In her previous life, when she first went to the countryside to become an educated youth in this place. On the way to the county town, I encountered a little boy who couldn't speak and developed asthma. Although she has a bad temper, she has been influenced by her father and others since childhood, and has a sense of responsibility to save lives and help the injured. After encountering this child, although Bai Zhi complained, she still carried the child on her back for 5 or 6 kilometers and took the person to the hospital. And that child is Hee-jun's only younger brother, Hee-chiu. Since then, Hee-jun often did all the work assigned to her by the brigade. I will also ask Hee-chiu to bring her some food. In my previous life, I was trapped in the house by Chao Xiaolan to catch adultery, in order not to be beaten into making shoes. In the end, she still married Hee-jun. After marriage it is probably because of the life-saving grace of Xiaoqiu. So, no matter how much Bai Zhi caused trouble, Hee-jun endured it. Just two people who don't love each other, have many conflicts after marriage and always have a difficult time. 1 year later, I don't know why. Hee-jun's younger brother, Hee-chiu jumped into the river. After Hee-chiu jumped into the river, their conflict intensified. Hee-jun seems to be crazy, taking her into the water every night in the middle of the night. Forcing her to learn swimming. Everyone said that it was because she abused Xiaoqiu privately that Hee-chiu jumped into the river. She also thought that Hee-jun didn't believe her because Hee-jun forced her to learn swimming. Between the two, there was a threat to the life of Hee-jun's younger brother, and their marital relationship became even more tumultuous. With the involvement of Ji Xiaoxiao and some others, they couldn't hold on for 5 or 6 years before they divorced. She thought she would never see He Jun in her lifetime after that. But 10 years later, she was kidnapped. He Jun still appeared. He Jun blocked the 3 shotguns that were fired at her and also laid down the kidnapper before he fell. However, those 3 rounds of shotgun almost turned He Jun into a sieve. Bai Zhi tried everything possible but couldn't save him. After that, she worked even harder to study medicine, and even pursued a degree in Western medicine. But her medical skills have become the top in the world, and she cannot save the former He Jun. Bai Zhi suddenly felt that Wu Aihua's words just now were not unreasonable. He Jun met her, was once again bullied by her, and in the end, even his life was in danger. It's not like I've been through 8 lifetimes. What's blood mold? Looking at herself in the mirror, Bai Zhi's expression was stunned. He Jun probably regrets meeting her too, right? She still remembers that after saving her, He Jun said in the pool of blood, "I regret it, Bai Zhi. If there is an afterlife, let's not live like this for a lifetime." Now, there really is an afterlife. Coincidentally, she found a way to avoid being caught cheating. In this life, He Jun no longer needs to be entangled and influenced by her. After a moment, Bai Zhi pulled out a porcelain vase from her spiritual medicine space. Everything in the elixir space is what she has used before. This bottle of medicine is the blood stasis medicine she once made according to ancient formulas, using the best medicinal materials in this spiritual medicine space. She meticulously applied medicine to every part of her neck, collarbone, and clothing in front of the mirror. Finally, looking at herself in the mirror, Bai Zhi smiled. With this medicine, at most an hour, all the traces left by He Jun can disappear. At that time, she can find an opportunity to clarify. In this lifetime, there will be no more bonds between her and He Jun. With He Jun's ability, there is no need for her to do anything for him. In this life, the only thing Bai Zhi can do is probably to fulfill him, let him go free, and not let him regret it again. I don't know why, Bai Zhi covered her eyes and her eyes were slightly hot. Chapter 7. What Sister in Law? You are listening at Novel Full Audio. At that moment, Aunt Lu shouted outside, "Bai Zhi, have you packed up? It's time to eat." Bai Zhi responded, "All right." In order not to cause any abnormalities, Bai Zhi still wore the scarf. After Bai Zhi finished her meal and saw that she was going to tidy up, Aunt Lu quickly suppressed her and said, "You've made a big contribution today. Belongs to sacrificing oneself for others. You should rest well at home." Bai Zhi stood up and said, "I want to make a phone call to the commune." Aunt Lu really doesn't know the specific situation of Bai Zhi's family. If such a big thing happened to the girl's family, she must have told her family. Looking at her with pity, then wait a moment. Aunt Lu quickly entered the bedroom and brought out 5 yuan and 2 liang of food vouchers. Hand it to Bai Zhi and say, "The money on your body is wet. Take this money and use it first." Bai Zhi didn't want to go back to the Educated Youth Academy to delay her time. "Thank you, Aunt Lu." In his previous life, his father passed away on the eve of rehabilitation. She didn't know whether it was because of overwork leading to illness, or if her body had already had a root cause of illness, or if her stepfather knew that the Bai family had a chance to recover and took action early. He Jun is still alive, what about Dad? Is it okay too? She was eager to hear her father's news firsthand. On the other side, He Jun took the Cheng family to the county hospital and rushed back without leaving for a moment. At the brigade headquarters, several idle young men from the brigade gathered around and said, "He Jun." He Jun had something in his heart and didn't want to talk to them. Bai Zhi is still at the Wu family, and he doesn't know if anything else happened after he left. "I want to go to Captain Wu's house to ask." He Jun just ignored them, but they were proactive. One of them, named Xian Lu, grabbed He Jun directly and refused to let him say, "He Jun, did that Bai Zhi really come to see you in the middle of the night? He chuckled with an indescribable lewdness. I really didn't see that Bai Zhi was this kind of person. On the surface, it looks arrogant, it turns out to be so coquettish. After speaking, he squinted at He-jun and said, He-jun, how many times did you do it last night? He-jun's footsteps came to a complete halt, staring at him with a cold gaze. What are you saying? Qian Lu was still thinking about the appearance of Bai Zhi after falling into the water. Where did he notice He-jun's expression? I don't usually notice it. Today, with her wet clothes sticking to her body, I realized that Bai Zhi's seductive face was not enough, but her figure was also so good. Thinking of what Chao Xiaolan had said to him, and then thinking about Bai Zhi's face, Qian Lu felt extremely hot in his heart. Bai Zhi can actively collude with He-jun, why can't he? He is richer than He-jun, he can talk big. Maybe my kung fu is even better. Qian Lu leaned in and lowered his voice, Jun, how does Bai Zhi taste? How did she find you? As he spoke, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva and said, you tell me, if I go. Before he could finish speaking, Qian Lu let out a scream. First, he was punched hard in the face by He-jun, causing his head to buzz. He just screamed out in agony. He-jun stepped down again. Qian Lu was lying on the ground, feeling another huge pain in his stomach, as if he was about to pierce. Following closely, he heard screams of agony all around him. None of the people they came together escaped. Qian Lu had just regained his senses when his neck was choked the next second. He-jun pinched Qian Xiaoyu's neck and exerted force bit by bit. Qian Xiaolu, what did you just say? His eyes were cold and his voice was almost icy. Qian Xiaolu rubbed his back with sweat and said, no, brother, I was wrong. At this moment, he really almost thought He-jun was going to strangle him. You should know that He-jun almost killed someone before. I heard that Grandpa He-jun's family is a capitalist or something, but 20 years ago, this family all went abroad. He-jun his mother didn't go abroad. He-jun committed suicide after giving birth to He-chiu. The two brothers of the He family were brought back by Mrs. He. However, the two brothers have a bad chemistry. The eldest and second families of the He family refused to let them stay, so the teenage He-jun took He-chiu alone. At first, some people thought that He-jun had a capitalist's grandfather and suspected that he was hiding treasures. I secretly tied up his deaf and mute younger brother, trying to get something from He-jun's hand. That same time, He-jun almost killed the two strong men who had tied up his brother with bare hands. At that time, He-jun was just a teenager and not really very powerful. He is ruthless. It's just not worth it. I heard that one of the ears was bitten off by He-jun among the two people. The other one lay in bed for half a year. It is said that those who are horizontal are afraid of being ruthless, while those who are ruthless are afraid of being deadly. He-jun is someone who doesn't want to die. That time, many people rummaged through He-jun's house, but there was nothing. For the entire production team, He-jun was just a despicable poor guy, and since then no one has deliberately provoked He-jun. He didn't provoke He-jun for several years. He almost forgot who He-jun was. I'm sorry, brother, I was wrong. He-jun's eyes flickered with a murderous intent. What should I say in the future, what shouldn't I say? Do you understand? At this moment, Qian Xiaolu was scared to death and repeatedly begged for mercy, brother, we know we're wrong. June, I dare not offend my sister.In.law again. Brother, it's my cheap mouth, it's my bastard. You let me go. When He-jun heard the words, sister.In.law, his eyes sank and he kicked it up, get lost. What kind of sister.In.law is Bai Zhi? Bai Zhi only wished to distance herself from him. Qian Xiaolu and the remaining scumbags ran away. A young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes approached and said, June, what is your relationship with that educated youth in the city? Lu Monsong is the eldest in the family. His parents are not in good health and cannot do much work. He also likes to have children. A group of younger siblings were born at home. If he doesn't follow along and do some sneaky things, even the small ones in his family will starve to death. However, he has some bottom lines and his relationship with Hee-jun is also good. Because Hee-jun has a wide range of connections and knows many people. Occasionally, Hee-jun also gives him a bite to eat. June, it's not that we're talking nonsense. Those words from everyone's mouths will definitely become more and more unpleasant to hear. Xian Xiaolu and the others were scared and didn't dare to do anything. But there are others. As Hee-jun's eyes sank, Lu Monsang quickly said, "My brother, I dare not have that kind of thought. I also know that the petite educated youth in their city don't like me. I'm just reminding you." As soon as they heard about these, they started muttering to themselves. These few, if you fight, they won't come. But there are many people in the commune who care about Bai Zhi. What came to mind, Lu Monsang said, especially Kong Dehai, that bastard, he had already spoken. The atmosphere here in the countryside is like this. Those big daughters-in-law, little widows, they definitely dare not provoke. But it is said that mosquitoes do not bite seamless eggs. After Bai Zhi's reputation is tarnished, those bastard sons will definitely continue to harass Bai Zhi. Bai Zhi is too beautiful and eye-catching. Hee-jun's face became even worse, and when he thought of something, he lifted his foot and left. Lu Monsang shouted from behind, "Brother, Jun. Where are you going?" Hee-jun didn't look back and strode to the office of the production team. As soon as Bai Zhi arrived at the place where the commune was making a phone call, she was stopped by someone shouting, "Bai Zhi." Bai Zhi looked up and saw a girl dressed in a goose-yellow brag. Who is not Ji Xiaoxiao? Bai Zhi and Ji Xiaoxiao have never dealt with each other. Initially sent to the countryside by Bai Mu, only half a month after replacing Ji Xiaoxiao also took the initiative to follow her to the countryside. Moreover, when facing her, Ji Xiaoxiao underwent a 180-degree change in attitude. Proactively apologized to her and offered her a job, giving her the opportunity to return to the city. Bai Zhi knows Ji Xiaoxiao too well. Ji Xiaoxiao's kindness and eagerness made Bai Zhi suspect and see the clues. After secretly staring at Ji Xiaoxiao for a few days, Bai Zhi was surprised to find that the arrogant Ji Xiaoxiao had fallen in love with a rough man from the countryside, Hee-jun. Bai Zhi, who hated Ji Xiaoxiao to the bone, naturally relied on the life-saving kindness of Hee-jun's younger brother to thrust sideways and intentionally approach Hee-jun. In fact, from her previous life until the end, Bai Zhi didn't know why Ji Xiaoxiao was so persistent with Hee-jun. Even if she gets married to Hee-jun, Ji Xiaoxiao refused to give up and continued to use tactics between her and Hee-jun, trying every means possible to separate them. Bai Zhi once guessed that perhaps even Ji Xiaoxiao suddenly chased her to the countryside because of Hee-jun. However, Bai Zhi couldn't figure out where Ji Xiaoxiao met Hee-jun before going to the countryside. Why are you so persistent with Hee-jun? After this rebirth, she had a vague guess in her heart. Chapter 8. You misunderstood. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bai Zhi looked deeply at Ji Xiaoxiao. In her previous life, she never understood anything. After being reborn, I know everything. Why has Ji Xiaoxiao changed so much and why is she so persistent with Hee-jun? There is only one reason. Because Ji Xiaoxiao has also been reborn. Bai Zhi understands Ji Xiaoxiao, but Ji Xiaoxiao doesn't have much to do on her own. If literature fails, martial arts will fail. In her previous life, Ji Xiaoxiao knew in advance that the college entrance examination would resume, but she only got into a junior college. Knowing the future development in advance, Ji Xiaoxiao made several investments and almost fell through. For Ji Xiaoxiao, the best choice is to buy stocks. Bai Zhi believes that no matter in which lifetime, Hee-jun will not disappear from the public. Jun, who has the best future but is now silent at the bottom of the valley. It's Ji Xiaoxiao's best choice. If it weren't for Bai Zhi's intentional involvement, she was likely to succeed. However, after knowing everything, Bai Zhi found it somewhat dull and tasteless. She is also very clear. In her previous life, she and Jun were not only due to Ji Xiaoxiao, but also had irreconcilable conflicts between them. So, taking a glance at her, Bai Zhi lifted her eyes and walked away. Ji Xiaoxiao caught Bai Zhi and said, "Bai Zhi." Bai Zhi frowned and shook off Ji Xiaoxiao. Like throwing away something dirty, don't move your manual feet. Ji Xiaoxiao looked at Bai Zhi, who had a cold expression on her face. She always feels that today's Bai Zhi is a bit different. Did she really stimulate me too much? I'm sorry, Bai Zhi. I didn't expect Chao Xiaolan to do this, Ji Xiaoxiao said with a sincere expression on her face, feeling a bit uneasy. I immediately went to report to you after discovering it. Ji Xiaoxiao breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Fortunately, you're okay." Bai Zhi remained expressionless. In her previous life, she was just like a fool. When she heard Ji Xiaoxiao's words, she actually believed them. Seeing her like this, Ji Xiaoxiao couldn't help but frown and could only continue to say the prepared words, "Bai Zhi, Chao Xiaolan definitely won't just forget about it. I don't know how to arrange you yet." She said sincerely, "Bai Zhi, please go back to the city. I will tell my dad to arrange a job for you. Anyway, our family only needs one person to go to the countryside. Lin Jianan likes you. With a job, you can also be with him." Upon hearing these words, Bai Zhi couldn't help but curl her lips. When Bai Zhi divorced in her previous life, Ji Xiaoxiao also said the same thing, encouraging her to divorce. At that time, Lin Jianan probably had already cooperated with Ji Xiaoxiao, so he took the initiative to approach her and said he didn't mind her getting divorced. He also said that his relationship with Ji Xiaoxiao was a misunderstanding. At that time, Bai Zhi no longer liked Lin Jianan, but she still chose to cooperate with him to establish a pharmaceutical factory. However, after Lin Jianan took her prescription, he kicked her away. Finally, standing together with Ji Xiaoxiao and mocking her, saying that she has such shabby shoes, is it okay to come out and see people? Lin Jianan's his mother propaganda is even more popular. It is said that Bai Zhi was caught and raped in bed while playing with people in the countryside, and now she is still a second marriage. Surprisingly, she also intends to seduce her son. Thinking of these, Bai Zhi sneered, "No need, I don't like picking up junk. No matter how blind she is, she won't be blind for 2 lifetimes." Ji Xiaoxiao quickly explained, "Bai Zhi, you misunderstood." Bai Zhi smiled and said, "What was the misunderstanding? Didn't you intentionally show me the letter Lin Jianan wrote to you? Don't worry, I'm not rare anymore. After speaking, turn around and leave." Ji Xiaoxiao's face changed and she quickly grabbed her. "I've never thought that way before, there must be some misunderstanding," she said. She showed Bai Zhi a letter to ask her to return to the city. But who knew that Bai Zhi, a lunatic, was so angry that he directly drugged Jun. "I was even kicked by Chao Xiaolan, causing this mess. Bai Zhi, if I had liked Lin Jianan, I would have stayed in the city long ago," she said with a tone that seemed to be filled with resentment. "How could they possibly go to the countryside?" She said, "Don't worry. I will help you keep things hidden here. I won't let the people in the pharmaceutical factory's family hospital know." Thinking she had calmed Bai Zhi's heart, Ji Xiaoxiao looked at her again and said, "I just called my dad and Aunt Han. You can rest assured to go back to the city." Coincidentally, at that moment, the phone over there rang. The staff member who answered the phone at the Post and Telecommunications office shouted, Bai Zhi's call was from Han Chuanxia. Looking around at the people around, he asked, "Is Bai Zhi here?" Ji Xiaoxiao's eyes moved and she said, "Bai Zhi, Mom called you." Han Chuanxia, Bai Zhi's biological mother, but she only wants to be Ji Xiaoxiao's good stepmother. Bai Zhi remembered that in her previous life, she seemed to have also answered Han Chuanxia's phone call at this time. Han Chuanxia confirmed that it was Bai Zhi over there and said on the phone, Bai Zhi. Do you know how much effort I put into separating you from that capitalist from the Bai family? But what about you? How dare you even take the initiative to hook up with a brat? Are you trying to kill our whole family? She complained deeply about me. If I had known that, I shouldn't have cared about you in the beginning. I should just ask you to live in the cowshed with your father for a lifetime. Bai Zhi lowered her eyelids, her eyes icy cold. Han Chuanxia on the other end of the phone was still cursing. Do you know how much trouble your actions will cause me and your father? He's not my dad. Bai Zhi interrupted her coldly. Han Chuanxia became even angrier and said, Bai Zhi. Do you have a conscience? How kind Uncle Ji is to you. He raised you up. You don't have to be despised or undergo labor reform. Bai Zhi couldn't help but laugh and said, does he support me? I will always wear clothes that Ji Xiaoxiao doesn't want. What she ate was her leftovers. Even everything my dad left me was taken away by Ji Xiaoxiao. If you want to be a good stepmother, should I be insulted, or abused by the Ji family? Upon hearing this accusation, Han Chuanxia angrily said, Bai Zhi. Why are you so heartless? You're younger than Xiaoxiao, what's wrong with wearing the clothes she's wearing? Who didn't come here like this? Han Chuanxia spoke more and more confidently, your Uncle Ji is so kind to you. What's wrong with letting Xiaoxiao down a bit? You are my own, would I harm you? Then he lowered his voice and said, but don't you know what your background is? Do you still want to keep your capitalist habits? You know what you eat and dress well with all your heart. Han Chuanxia angrily said, for your sake, I divorced and remarried your Uncle Ji. Bai Zhi smiled little by little and said, for me. How much money did my dad give you? How much did he give you? How many benefits did he give you? When the Bai family had an accident, Han Chuanxia negotiated with Bai Lianji, the father of Bai Zhi. As long as Bai Lianji agrees to divorce, she will take Bai Zhi away and prevent her from undergoing labor reform. However, Bai Lianji had to take out the medical books and prescriptions he had on hand, and also pay a large amount of child support. For Bai Zhi, Bai's father gave it all. So, it's not that the Ji family raised Bai Zhi, but they relied on Bai Zhi to support the entire Ji family. It also provided for Ji Xing's future. It was not until the end that Bai Zhi learned about these things. I also realized that the reason why the Bai family had an accident was also because Bai's mother and Ji Xiaoxiao's father were scheming. This time back, she won't let go of a single one. Chapter 9. Misunderstandings. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Han Chuanxia clearly did not expect Bai Zhi to know these things. Upon hearing Bai Zhi's mockery, she felt both embarrassed and angry. Bai Zhi. Can your father's dirty money be seen by anyone? Bai Zhi chuckled softly and said, you're also very happy to spend this money. Han Chuanxia became angry with embarrassment and said, Bai Zhi. She seemed to want to curse, but what came to her mind was that she lowered her voice and said, Bai Zhi, I know you hate me. But Xiaoxiao is innocent. Why do you want to grab everything from her? Bai Zhi sneered, that's why Han Chuanxia called. After Han Chuanxia remarried, all the gentle maternal love was given to Ji Xiaoxiao. Bai Zhi snatched the man Ji Xiaoxiao wanted, of course Han Chuanxia had to take care of it. She curled up the corner of her mouth and said, Ji Xiaoxiao likes it. Even if there's a problem with the ingredients, it's okay with Hejun. But I can't do it, can I? Han Chuanxia said, Bai Zhi. Can you be the same as Xiaoxiao? What ingredient is she and what ingredient are you? You don't have any points in your mind. Bai Zhi smiled and said, yes, I can't compare with Ji Xiaoxiao. However, then I really made a perfect match with Hejun. By the way, I'm answering the phone. I didn't mean to say these things to you. I just want to tell you that in order to avoid affecting you, could you please also publish a newspaper and sever ties with me? Han Chuanxia became angry and said, Bai Zhi. Are you crazy? Bai Zhi no longer wanted to continue listening and hung up the phone. Ji Xiaoxiao beside him also shouted out, Bai Zhi. Are you crazy? No matter how hard you can't think about it, you can't be so angry with Mom. She couldn't believe it. You really don't want to go back to the city. Bai Zhi glanced at her and for some reason, she felt unhappy in her heart. Although she and He Jun will not be together again. But she definitely doesn't want Ji Xiaoxiao to take over. Looking at her, Bai Zhi deliberately said, I think the countryside is also quite good. The chairman encourages us to root in the countryside and build it. Ji Xiaoxiao's face changed slightly and she said, you don't need to deliberately ruin your life just to get back at me. She was really afraid that Bai Zhi's innocence would be ruined, so she really put on a show and chose to marry He Jun. Bai Zhi, you have been pampered and raised by your mother and Uncle Bai, and have never experienced hardship. She glanced around and said, do you really want to spend your whole life with He Jun in this rundown place? Can you bear it? After listening to Ji Xiaoxiao's words, Bai Zhi also thought that in his previous life, He Jun seemed to have never let her suffer. He always strives to find various good things for her. Later, their relationship eased. He Jun knew that she was greedy and couldn't bear hardship, so he deliberately practiced good cooking skills. It's just that He Jun is restless and kind-hearted. Every time he tries to tempt her with delicious food, it's basically to coax her into agreeing to his various demands on the con. Thinking of the past, Bai Zhi couldn't help but tug at the corners of her mouth. Seeing Bai Zhi indifferent, Ji Xiaoxiao became anxious and said, didn't you dislike He Jun for being dirty in his roughness? You are so proud and proud. Are you really willing to spend your whole life with a man like He Jun who sees his head at a glance? Bai Zhi said, what you said, my reputation has been ruined. What should I do if I don't stay in the countryside? What if I don't marry He Jun? Ji Xiaoxiao finally changed her color and her voice became sharp. Bai Zhi. You're crazy. Your father is a capitalist. She knew that due to Bai's father's composition issue, Bai Zhi was most afraid of labor reform. Do you know that He Jun is not even from the Red Flag Brigade? That his mother family of He Jun is still abroad. The ingredients of He Jun also cannot withstand investigation. If you're with He Jun, maybe you'll have to go along and undergo transformation anytime. Bai Zhi. You're joking about your entire life. Bai Zhi's expression remained unchanged, but she looked straight at Ji Xiaoxiao and asked, and you? Ji Xiaoxiao was taken aback. So what do you like about He Jun? Bai Zhi asked, you know that He Jun's ingredients are not good. Why are you rushing down to the countryside so eagerly that He Jun doesn't get married? Ji Xiaoxiao's heart skipped a beat and she said, why rush to the countryside? I know you replaced me in going to the countryside, I'm sorry. Bai Zhi sneered, stop pretending. I've known you for 18 years. Who are you? I don't know yet. Seeing Bai Zhi tear her face apart directly, Ji Xiaoxiao's face also darkened. Bai Zhi, in this production team, your reputation is notorious on the streets. Returning to the city is your only choice. Ji Xiaoxiao put on a negotiating posture and said, I like He Jun, you like Lin Jianan. We who won't interfere, okay. As long as you don't trouble me, I can guarantee that nothing here will be heard by Lin Jianan and his family. When you return to the city, you can continue to be with Lin Jianan, and I will also arrange a job for you at the pharmaceutical factory. Bai Zhi was too lazy to talk to her and wanted to find a way to contact her father as soon as she left. Ji Xiaoxiao ignored Bai Zhi when she saw her and became anxious. She was afraid that He Jun would choose to take responsibility for Bai Zhi's reputation at that moment. She suddenly saw a figure not far away and paused as she was about to speak. She stared at Bai Zhi, her eyes turned, and suddenly said, "Bai Zhi. I know you hate me. I also know what happened yesterday, it was just an accident. You wanted to prescribe medicine to me and Hee-jun, but it caused you to lose your innocence. So I don't blame you either. I also believe that Lin Jianan won't mind. But you can't just break the jar just because of such an accident." Bai Zhi was taken aback and then remembered. It seems so. At that time, her heart was full of longing for Lin Jianan, and of course she wouldn't prescribe medicine for herself and Hee-jun. She wants to calculate on Ji Xiaoxiao and Hee-jun. As long as Ji Xiaoxiao stays completely in the countryside, isn't Lin Jianan her? She just didn't take any medicine, so she left a small note for Ji Xiaoxiao and invited her to meet with Hee-jun. I want Ji Xiaoxiao to write a letter to sever ties with Lin Jianan. But that night, Ji Xiaoxiao did not arrive. Instead, she and Hee-jun were caught and raped in bed. She even doubted whether Ji Xiaoxiao had been calculating her from the beginning. Is it possible that Ji Xiaoxiao doesn't like Hee-jun at all and just wants to trick her and ruin her reputation in future? Now it seems that what happened last night was really not done by Ji Xiaoxiao. Ji Xiaoxiao continued, I know your thoughts are all about Lin Jianan, and you don't even like Hee-jun. Being with Hee-jun for revenge is irresponsible to yourself and unfair to Hee-jun. And, in this way, you and Lin Jianan really have no hope left. Ji Xiaoxiao looked at her stunned by Lin Jianan and felt relieved. Bai Zhi, is it really cost-effective to bury the future for someone you don't like? Bai Zhi regained her senses and sneered, I think as long as I can retaliate against you, anything I do is very cost-effective. As for returning to the city, Bai Zhi smiled and said, I will definitely come back. After all, my home is there. The people I miss are also there. There are still so many enemies there. Of course she has to go back. After speaking, without looking at Ji Xiaoxiao's expression, he just turned around and left. She could see that if she didn't leave, Ji Xiaoxiao wouldn't be finished. She can't make this phone call either. After only taking 2 steps and turning a corner, I saw Hee-jun standing there, like a javelin. Hee-jun looked at Bai Zhi with such determination. Hee-jun actually knew for a long time that all the good things Bai Zhi gave him were performed for Ji Xiaoxiao to see. Knowing that Bai Zhi looked down upon him from the bottom of her heart, despised him, and even disliked him. However, Hee-jun wanted Bai Zhi to give up her childhood sweetheart and be willing to be with him, using him to stimulate Ji Xiaoxiao. At least he treats her somewhat differently. Not really. She never thought about staying in this production team. Bai Zhi can hate him, she can hate him, but Bai Zhi needs to prescribe medicine for him and Ji Xiaoxiao. He tugged at the corner of his mouth. The proof in hand was crumpled into a ball. He actually wants to help Bai Zhi solve the rumor problem and take responsibility. But is Bai Zhi willing? The people that Bai Zhi yearns for are all in the city, what is he? After staring at Bai Zhi for a moment, he turned around and left. Saying more seems to be self-deprecating. Hee-jun, Bai Zhi frowned slightly as she watched him leave. Hee-jun's footsteps did not stop, he strode forward. Bai Zhi shouted again, Hee-jun. Hee-jun still hasn't turned back. Chapter 10. I will not disdain you. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The last time Bai Zhi saw Hee-jun's back like this was when she divorced him. That time, Hee-jun looked at her and only said, take care, before leaving without looking back. Looking at his back, I feel that after divorce, perhaps they will never see each other again in their lifetime. At that time, she also wanted to stop him and say something. But in the end, it's okay. Because divorce was also initiated by her. This time, it was also her own choice. Watching Hee-jun walking away like this, Bai Zhi still felt a bit annoyed. Bai Zhi thought, this is probably human selfish possessiveness. Even if they are not together, she will still be unwilling. Will be driven by possessiveness. It's uncomfortable to see Hee-jun with others. Seeing Bai Zhi staring at He Jun, Ji Xiaoxiao felt a bit uneasy. Intentionally raising her voice, she woke up Bai Zhi and said, "Bai Zhi," although she wasn't caught in bed. "But there are also many people who know about you and He Jun." Ji Xiaoxiao looked at Bai Zhi's stunning face with a hint of jealousy in her eyes. "You look so pretty. In the countryside, with such a face and such a reputation, do you know what those men would do to you? Bai Zhi, go back to the city. I promise there won't be any news going back. You can continue to find Lin Jianan." Bai Zhi looked coldly at Ji Xiaoxiao. She knew that Ji Xiaoxiao should have seen He Jun in advance just now. Ji Xiaoxiao will never get tired of playing with such methods. But Bai Zhi was also well aware of the reason why she was repeatedly instigated by Ji Xiaoxiao. It's also because there are many irreconcilable conflicts between her and He Jun. For example, He Jun doesn't like her. He Jun always cares about her past. All she has is a little responsibility. Because she wasn't sincere when she first approached He Jun. Because what she once longed for was Lin Jianan. Both of them have a high-spirited, arrogant temperament, and are unwilling to compromise. So, the relationship between the two has become worse repeatedly due to such instigation. Just like this time, what was said just now, except for the matter of drugging He Jun, everything else was true. What can Bai Zhi explain even if she calls He Jun back? But, Bai Zhi, this will just be unpleasant. Especially when seeing Ji Xiaoxiao still nagging, Bai Zhi was even more unhappy. Looking at Ji Xiaoxiao's face, I thought of He Jun and all her past experiences, and thought of the scene where He Jun died in front of her. Bai Zhi suddenly felt that many things were not avenged in her previous life, so she could remain calm. Ji Xiaoxiao is still saying, "Bai Zhi, as long as you are willing." Halfway through, Bai Zhi suddenly reached out and slapped Ji Xiaoxiao in the face. Ji Xiaoxiao was stunned by the beating and only spoke in a sharp voice for a while, "Bai Zhi. How dare you hit me?" Bai Zhi looked at her and suddenly stepped forward to slap her again. Seeing Ji Xiaoxiao's face quickly turn red and swollen after struggling to maintain it, I looked at her expression of disbelief. Bai Zhi's mood finally improved. She rubbed her wrist and suddenly sighed, "I used to talk too much. Sure enough, hitting someone is more enjoyable. If you don't like it, just hit her. What do you have to say to her?" Ji Xiaoxiao looked at Bai Zhi and gritted her teeth. "Do you believe me? I asked Han Chuanxia to completely cut off all your supplies. You think the days of going to the countryside are really so easy?" Bai Zhi smiled and said, Go complain. I can't wait anymore." "Don't worry, even if I'm not with He Jun," she said with a brighter smile, "I absolutely won't let you have a chance either. Yes, even if she is disliked by He Jun no matter how much, she will still keep an eye on Ji Xiaoxiao and He Junqing in her lifetime. In her previous life, she did divorce He Jun. But she also knows He Jun well. Bai Zhi has 100% confidence that she can stir up Ji Xiaoxiao and He Jun. Ji Xiaoxiao covered her left face and stared at Bai Zhi, almost unable to control the malice in her eyes. Bai Zhi smiled and asked her, "Guess what, I'm going to find He Jun now and say he's responsible. Will he agree?" Ji Xiaoxiao gritted her teeth. She was well aware that as long as Bai Zhi spoke up, He Jun would be responsible. He Jun will never refuse. She suppressed all her anger and said, "Bai Zhi, isn't it good to go back to the city?" Looking at Bai Zhi, Ji Xiaoxiao calmed down and said, "Our goals are different. You want Su Jianan, you want to return to the city, you want the future. And I, as long as He Jun. Why do you have to target me? Why spend your whole life in the countryside for this?" Ji Xiaoxiao's tone bewitched, "As long as you don't interfere, I will ask my dad to arrange work for you and even facilitate your marriage to Lin Jianan." Bai Zhi looked at her and smiled, "Who said our goals are different?" Ji Xiaoxiao tightened her hands and suddenly looked at Bai Zhi. Bai Zhi also fell in love with He Jun. You know, in her impression, Bai Zhi and he June got married in their previous life. Who knew that Bai Zhi said the next second, aren't we both thinking that each other is having a difficult time? I want to destroy whatever you want. Bai Zhi asked, so, Ji Xiaoxiao, what do you really want now? Is he June? Ji Xiaoxiao's face changed and she said, Bai Zhi, fish die and the net is broken. It's not good for anyone. We can trade. What do you want? Lin Jianan. A good job. Money. Or your mother. Bai Zhi sneered, those who are barefoot are not afraid of wearing shoes. If we fish to death, we will be caught. It's also my profit. After speaking, Bai Zhi left. Looking at her back, Ji Xiaoxiao clenched her hands and called out to her, what about Lin Jianan? You've liked him for over a decade, do you really plan to just forget about it? Bai Zhi glanced at her and deliberately said, after all, my reputation is gone, and it's impossible for me to be with him. Is that right? She glanced up and down at Ji Xiaoxiao and said, so, Ji Xiaoxiao, don't provoke me. I have nothing left. Go crazy, anything you do is possible. Next time, it's not just these 2 slaps. Ji Xiaoxiao cursed inwardly as a slut. At this moment, she really wished she could kill that slut Chao Xiaolan. All her plans from rebirth to now have been ruined by her. Covering her fiery face, Ji Xiaoxiao's expression became increasingly gloomy. We cannot let Bai Zhi stay, absolutely not. After waiting for Ji Xiaoxiao to leave, Bai Zhi turned around and returned to the post office. Hello comrade, I want to make a phone call. The commune staff asked directly, phone number. Bai Zhi thought for a moment and finally reported the phone number from Shen Heping's side. There is no private phone now. It's all about which unit to hit. Whoever else's unit goes to help find. After the staff finished typing, they said to Bai Zhi, we'll go call someone over there. You can wait. Bai Zhi responded and waited beside her. Bai Zhi grew up in a family courtyard of a pharmaceutical factory from a young age and had many childhood friends. Shen Heping is also one of them. After the donation of the Bai family's pharmaceutical factory, the Bai family only held a small portion of the shares. Coincidentally, Dad only likes to do his own research and doesn't like business management. After the integration and rectification of the pharmaceutical factory, the person truly responsible for management is Shen Guangxin, the father of Shen Heping. At that time, many people told Bai Zhi that the Bai family's factory had been taken away by the Shen family. Shen Heping is said to be the child of a bad person. After listening too much, she began to particularly reject the Shen family. Even Shen Heping's kindness towards her felt ill-intentioned. Until being calculated by Ji Xiaoxiao and Lin Jianan, and after being tarnished in the pharmaceutical factory, it was also the Shen family who came forward to help. At that time, she realized that the Shen family and her father had been good friends for many years. Even though she grew up in a pharmaceutical factory and was not affected by her father's situation, it was all thanks to Uncle Shen's help. After a while, they called back again and said, Bai Zhi, right. I'm looking for you. They also explained, 1 cent per minute for cross-provincial travel. At this time, it is quite extravagant to buy 1 kilogram of fine grain for 3 to 4 cents and make phone calls. I'm afraid someone might end up on the phone and cause trouble again, refusing to pay. Bai Zhi responded and answered the phone, saying, hello. Shen Heping's voice was a bit surprised and didn't dare to believe it. Bai Zhi. Bai Zhi heard Shen Heping's voice and smiled. In her previous life, after she returned to the city, she gradually became closer to the Shen family, and Shen Heping was also her best friend. She didn't hesitate and said directly, Shen Heping, I would like to trouble you to help me find out where my dad is. Can you help me ask again if I can go and visit? Her father is currently in a special situation and she cannot directly contact him. Upon hearing her request, Shen Heping didn't hesitate for a moment and responded, okay. After seeming to hesitate for a moment, he asked, did you have a good time in the countryside? If you persist for 6 months, there will soon be a recommended university spot. No need, Bai Zhi interrupted him. Shen Heping frowned and said, my dad has already discussed it with someone. It's not a big problem for ordinary schools in the province. Bai Zhi said, I really don't need it. My ingredients can't withstand investigation, so don't cause any trouble for Uncle Shen. Shen Heping is not empty talk. I really got this spot in my previous life. Just being implicated by Ji Xiao, and because of her composition, Uncle Shen, who recommended her, almost got involved. This is not a problem, Shen Heping said. My dad promised Uncle Bai to take care of you. I really don't need it, Bai Zhi said with a slight warmth in her eyebrows and eyes. I just want to know if my dad is doing well now. Her voice was slightly low. I've been dreaming lately that my dad's health is not good. I want to go see him. Shen Heping stood up and said, 3 months ago, my dad received news and also told Uncle Bai about your trip to the countryside. He's okay. I'm just worried about you. Her father is really still alive. This sense of realism made Bai Zhi's eyes turn red for a moment. She slowly exhaled and said, I want to see my dad. Shen Heping advised, it's better not to. Bai Zhi, you grew up in the Ji family, and your current identity does not involve the Bai family. If you... Bai Zhi said, I don't mind, I just want to see my dad. One of Bai Zhi's biggest regrets in her previous life was not being able to meet her father before he left. Even if going to see her father causes a change in composition, we need to undergo labor reform together. Bai Zhi will not regret it either. It goes without saying who is more important than my father's safety after enduring years of hardship. Shen Heping frowned and asked, are you doing well in that red flag production team? Bai Zhi knew he was trying to get things wrong and explained, I'm fine, I just want to see my dad. Shen Heping sighed slightly and could only say, okay. He paused before saying, Bai Zhi, I'm glad you're willing to contact me. Bai Zhi smiled and said, thank you, Brother Heping. In her previous life, after He Jun left, only the Shen family remained to help her. She and Shen Heping have also become best friends. Shen Heping smiled and said, I will contact you when I have news. Bai Zhi said, okay, just call this number and have someone bring me a message, and I'll know. Okay, Shen Heping also responded. Bai Zhi hung up the phone, feeling that the sunshine had become much brighter. After giving money, Bai Zhi prepared to return to the Educated Youth Academy. As soon as he left the post office, he was stopped by a man, Bai Zhi. Bai Zhi, take a look. The man in front of her was oily and smooth, carefree, with a big oily hair and big leather shoes, rubbing against Bai Zhi and saying, Bai Zhi. Are you okay? He looked anxious and heartbroken. I heard that bastard He Jun bullied you. Bai Zhi stared at the man for a long time, but didn't recognize who he was. While speaking, Kang De-hai was also looking at Bai Zhi. I just realized that Bai Zhi's outfit doesn't look like her usual style. A floral shirt, polyester pants, and black cloth shoes. It is the most common way for ordinary girls in the production team to dress. Although others were dressed exceptionally tacky, he felt that Bai Zhi had a feeling of purity, simplicity, and beauty on her body. That face seems even more beautiful. Bai Zhi's eyebrows and eyes are delicate, especially the coldness in her eyes, which makes people itch. Kang De-hai couldn't help but ask, Bai Zhi, I heard that bastard He Jun bullied you. He looked indignant and said, as long as you say one word, Kang De-hai promises to help you kill him and avenge you. Upon hearing his words, Bai Zhi finally realized who this person was, Kang De-hai. This is Chao Xiaolan's former partner.